Well, yesterday we discussed how to play the ball on an upslope. So it's pretty logical that today we should think about how we play the ball when it's on the downslope. Now, it wouldn't be surprising if I said that many of the principles of yesterday's shot are pretty much reversed for today's shot. So here we have a situation, we've got a gentle slope. This is the sort of thing we'll find at Hoylake very, very often. Ball appears on first surface to be quite level, but there's just this gentle slope here. What we're going to do here though is we're going to recognise that unlike the upslope, because of now the orientation of gravity pushing us onto this front foot, this lower foot, the club face is actually now going to have loft taken away from it. So we probably now need to use a club that's got a little more loft. The caveat to this would be that if we were playing in a situation where it didn't really matter if the ball went very, very low and just kept on running, so I'll give you an example, hitting a shot, say for example up our 15th, where there's very little trouble to carry, it would be no problem to just keep that ball driving low and going along the ground and just running and running and running. But if we had anything to carry at all, we need to just think about the loft situation. So you probably need to go from your 7-iron now, and you need to go back up to perhaps your 8 or your 9-iron. And if we've got a long way to go, trying to hit that 3-wood off a downslope is a pretty tall order. Don't be surprised if you just see it scurrying low along the floor. But here we are in our setup position. So we're reversing now the principle of the upslope. We're going to again try and get our shoulders as near to parallel to the slope as we can possibly manage. Now the higher I lift this this right shoulder up, the more the weight goes into my front foot. That's not a bad thing at all. So we're looking for the shoulders to be parallel or as near to as possible. The weight to be slightly more into this front foot. Again, we're looking for a little bit of stability in the lower body. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to feel as though we're so imbalanced that we're going to get pulled forward with the shot. The chances are then you might top it. Now, here's where a slight difference occurs between the uphill and the downhill, and it's in the ball position. I didn't really talk too much about the ball position for the uphill. Many books you'll read will talk about putting the ball further forward in your stance. That's putting it nearer to your left foot. Personally, I tend to play my uphill shots more from a standard position for two reasons. One is that I know the ball's going to go high enough. I don't need it to go further towards this left foot. And secondly, the club face is closing, so therefore I don't really want to encourage that closure more by having the ball further forward. But when it comes to a downslope, we definitely need to change the ball position, and we need to move the ball nearer to the foot that's furthest away from the hole. So for the right-handers, that will be your right foot. And the simple logic behind that is that the ground is higher in this area here. If we play the ball in a normal place, the club is going to contact the surface of the ground before the ball. So having the ball back in our stance a little bit is going to help create a slightly steeper angle of approach into the ball, and it's going to ensure that we catch the ball first. Flight of the ball, as I've said, is going to be lower. So if you hit one of those great drives that just come up short of our fairway bunkers and you've got maybe 5 yards in front of you to get over the lip, just make sure you've got enough loft on your golf club, otherwise you're going to just bury it into the face of the bunker. If you can get it over that, it'll run and run and run. So how are we going to play this shot? As I said before, we're going to have our weight just slightly into our left shoe here. That's going to help us to get our shoulders so that we are parallel to the slope. The fact that there's an uphill part here will naturally restrict our shoulder turn. That's going to help us with a steeper angle of approach onto the ball. The slicers who are watching this are going to find this a piece of cake. So if club goes up and it comes down on the ball. And because we're actually restricting and driving down on the ball, there is a likelihood that the club face will now not quite square up in the same way. So you may see some curvature from left to right. So what we need to do is aim for it. So back to our ABCs. Angle of club head. Get some more loft on your golf club. B, get your balance right. And C, allow for the curvature. Allow for the curvature. When we find ourselves in really extreme situations, in this scenario here, everything is simply magnified. You can clearly see now, if I don't have some balance now, I'm going to get dragged down forward, and chances are I'm going to top it or hit the ground way in front of the ball. So opposite again to the curvature right to left, the uphill shot, I'm actually going to just leave a little bit more weight on this foot here, knowing that Mother Nature is naturally going to take me down through the ball. But I have to have the control. If I try and go at it too hard, I'm going to lose all control, lose my balance, and not make a particularly good shot at it. So just remember, for uphill and for downhill shots, ABC, angle, balance, and curvature.